In last week's video, I explored the consequences of being scapegoated by your family and how it can result in the adult survivor experiencing social isolation as one of the effects, along with complex trauma. This was validated in my research that I did many years ago on what I eventually named family scapegoating abuse. Well, today I'd like to talk about steps that you, as an adult survivor of family scapegoating abuse, or FSA, can take to move through these patterns of social isolation and develop healthier connections, not only with others, but with yourself. I'd like to talk now about steps to overcome social isolation, but I want to be sensitive to the fact that, easier said than done. It, you can know all the steps to take intellectually, and if you're locked into these dynamics, if you're suffering from complex trauma, if you've put yourself out there and had bad experiences, it's understandable why hearing lists put together by therapists like me could feel not helpful or annoying, but I'm going to put it out there anyway because I know these are the things that can work, that have worked for clients. The first one I know, again, can be a difficult one for people to hear because they have trouble accessing good therapy. And number one on my list is seek professional support. And of course, you want to seek professional support from someone who understands family systems and family scapegoating. They may not have heard of the term family scapegoating abuse, or FSA, but many therapists are more than willing to read my book, Rejected, Shamed, and Blamed. Every now and then you'll get someone who people have written me, oh, that research isn't valid. They think I've done some little survey, I guess. They don't understand. I worked at a university as core faculty, that I've researched on this for years, that I used valid qualitative research methods. I really, at this stage in my career, don't defend my work, don't defend my research. I don't expect you to either. But hopefully they'll have an open mind and won't dismiss my work out of hand. If they do, you might mention to them that this was qualitative research in a university setting, and my recent work, my research studies, are an adjunct to my original family systems research conducted many years ago. My hope is I will have a certification program out for interested therapists. I've started a list. If you're a therapist, get in touch with me. I'll put you on my email list. I have had continuing education providers also come to me wanting me to do a certification program to help therapists learn how to work with survivors like you. And that hopefully will help. I will then get a referral list going on my website. These are goals that I have, and I will hope to get to that one day soon. I can't promise when. In the meantime, I have a self-care article on scapegoatrecovery.com/blog, or do a search on my website, SelfCare, 10 Steps for Self-Care for FSA adult survivors. And I say on that list, I think number 4 of the 10 steps, how to go about finding a qualified therapist with family systems training. And ideally, they will also be trauma informed, have some knowledge of complex trauma, so they can work with you sensitively. On that list, I also include Dr. Janina Fisher's website. She has therapists that she's trained in something she calls her TIST, TIST method, trauma-informed stabilization treatment, and that can be helpful for some people as well. A therapist trained in internal family systems, or IFS, who does parts work also can be very helpful for people suffering from complex trauma related to family scapegoating dynamics. And that might be a good bet for you as well. If they're trauma informed, all the better. Number two, building a support network. Well, again, if you're afraid to reach out, don't want to take the risk, you feel you've been burned in the past, you don't want to try again, you feel vulnerable, this is when you have to make certain decisions and decide if you are going to take another risk. And finding a support network online can be a good first step. There's many support groups out there. My Substack that I have now, or our YouTube members community here, the paid channel member feature, you can find by clicking on the white join button on my channel. That is often a safer way to start out in a group. You can kind of hopefully listen and learn and see the personalities and decide if you want to jump in. And feel free to check out those groups, mine or someone else's group, see what feels right to you. Just like when I was checking out community platforms, feeling a bit like Goldilocks, I had to feel which one felt right for me. My community won't feel right for everyone. Communities grow and change. New people come in, people leave. What wasn't right today might feel right a year from now. I also list a all women's Facebook group on my resource list that's available on my website and on my Substack. And that's a good one also if you're looking for a private Facebook group. And there's some nice women there. I just encourage you to try and try again. Take breaks, wait till you feel ready to try. If you had to take a break from support groups or trying to find the right group, but I do encourage you not to give up, because that right group is out there for you. That's my hope for you. I can't promise or guarantee it, but that is my hope for you, that you'll find such a group for you that will help you to connect with other survivors who will understand what you've been through, where you won't have to explain so much, where you're around people who understand FSA, or people who understand family abuse or complex trauma. I list a lot of resources in my book as well. So if you have my book, go back to the resource section. I talk about therapy pathways that can be helpful, different support groups. So you might want to check that out as well. Number three, setting boundaries for self-care. I did a video on why developing healthy boundaries can make the scapegoating worse. And a lot of you probably found that out already. Check that video out. But the boundary setting, when we talk about boundary setting in relation to family scapegoating abuse, the boundary setting often will be limiting or ending contact, because setting boundaries, particularly in a narcissistic family system, is unlikely to work. It's likely to make the abuse worse. Setting boundaries in a dysfunctional family system, there's a little bit more hope. I can work with my clients more on that. It can take a lot of time, but things can slowly get better. It's certainly no quick fix, and it doesn't work all the time. And you often will need professional support to work through that type of situation, wanting to stay in touch with family members that scapegoat you. But hey, there's a reason why people do choose to severely limit or end contact, and that's because the boundary setting didn't work. But again, think back to my egg analogy that I gave earlier. The boundaries is that membrane surrounding the yellow yolk, your whole self, your golden whole self there in the middle of that boundary, that white membrane boundary. You need to go out in the world with that boundary to protect that whole self, to not get absorbed into other people's selves, to not lose yourself, and to live in your integrity, in your integralness, in your wholeness, in your authentic being. And it can take time. If you suffered from these types of invisible abuse or physical abuse, but it is possible to live embodied as your true self. It's a journey. For some of us, it's a lifetime journey. But as I said recently in another video, I think most of you will agree it's one well worth taking. Number 4 on steps you can take to break social isolation, practicing self-compassion. Cultivating self-compassion, being able to be self-nurturing, even entertaining the idea that you are worthy of love and that you can love yourself. This all takes time, especially in the face of past trauma, current trauma symptoms, criticism you experienced in your family that you now turn on yourself. There's a workbook that I use with my clients on developing self-compassion, mindful self-compassion workbook, engaging in self-care activities, making a list of things that feel self-nurturing for you can be very helpful and go hand in hand with developing self-compassion. And also, trauma-informed mindfulness meditation techniques can be helpful. And you can look for those types of videos on YouTube. You can do a search on trauma-informed mindfulness meditation, and that can be less triggering, less activating than some of the standard meditation practices out there. So that's something you may also want to check out. Number 5, being open to the idea that you can explore new hobbies, new interests, new activities, or develop new hobbies, new interests, and activities. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be something that involves other people initially, but eventually it might. When I have clients who feel ready to start engaging socially, but they're a little tentative, I've suggested that they go on Meetup and go to a museum with people or out to dinner or a movie, or, they have lots of different meetups in your area, unless you live in a tiny town like I do, a tiny beach town. There's no meetups here where I live. But for many of you, there will be meetups. And that is a low-key way to get out there, meeting people with common interests, not as threatening as a one-on-one situation. And that might be something that you want to check out. Picking up old hobbies. I know that's something I did. I returned to singing. I used to sing semi-professionally. I had stopped for years and years and years. I returned to dance after this illness I had last year. I felt well enough to do that. And these are things I hadn't done in decades. So thinking of things that you enjoyed when you were younger, even as a child, and picking them up again, even just quietly in your own room, not doing them with any others. Try it. Get a coloring book, get some paint by numbers, sing in the shower. What did you used to love as a child? And invite maybe that inner child that still lives in you to play and explore and see what you might connect with. And that might eventually lead you to a group situation. If you like to write, you might take a writing class at a local community college, for example. That also gets you out around people, but in a way that might feel more comfortable, less threatening. Number 6, spending time with animals. If you have animals, or spending time out in nature can feel very healing. If there's a dog park, you might go to a dog park. You'll meet other dog owners. That's a way to start up some conversation. And just being out there looking at the antics of critters can feel very self-nurturing. And it is a way of connecting with other sentient beings. As I said earlier, they don't always have to be human. There's many ways we can connect and many entities we can connect with. One of my best friends in my childhood was a tree, and I used to go climb high up in that tree, hide out in that tree. That tree felt very nurturing to me, very motherly, and it was a very important connection for me when I was young. Number 7, again, there's many more things I could add, but I did want to say that cognitive behavioral techniques have their place. It's not my first go-to always as a transpersonally oriented therapist, but practicing trauma-informed cognitive behavioral techniques can be very helpful in healing and recovering from any type of abuse, including FSA. As I mentioned earlier, FSA adult survivors often carry internalized messages deep within them that they're holding and they don't even know it in regard to their acceptableness, their worthiness. Are they worthy to be loved? Are they really able to have healthy relationships? This is, of course, a result of their traumatic experiences of scapegoating abuse in their family. Cognitive behavioral techniques that are trauma informed can help challenge and reframe these negative beliefs. You can do a Google search on trauma informed cognitive behavioral techniques. In the article I wrote that's on my Substack, I linked to a positivepsychology.com article that I liked very much, and that might be one that you want to read. I hope this video gives you some sense of why it is you may be struggling with social isolation and gives you some ideas about steps you can take to break out of it. And I do hope that I see some of you over on my new Substack site or here in our subscriber community area. Click on community on the homepage of my channel here. You'll see some conversations that we've had on different posts that I've put up. And I also have a paid channel member area with more perks. Clicking on that white join button will give you more information about that. As always, I look forward to hearing from you in the comments, and I look forward to connecting with you here again. See you next time. Take care.